Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dlo Insights, the dLocal Investor Relations podcast. This is our very first episode, and we're excited to create this channel as a way to connect more directly with all of you and share insights into our business, our strategy, the fascinating world of payments, and most importantly, for you to better get to know the people behind dLocal. With this podcast, we will go beyond earnings calls and presentations and have deeper conversations on the topics that occupy us every day here at dLocal, as we strive to build a world-class financial infrastructure company focused on emerging markets. I'm Christopher Strohmeyer, Senior Vice President of Corporate Development with oversight of the strategy, corp dev, and investor relations functions. And I couldn't be more excited about getting this podcast off the ground, and we're starting the series with what I think is a very special episode. Today, we want to introduce you all to someone who recently joined us here at dLocal and plays a critical role in our journey ahead, our Chief Financial Officer, Guillermo Lopez Perez. You will soon hear often from Guillermo on our earnings calls and at various investor-focused events. But today, we wanted to focus on you getting to know Guillermo better, his experience, his view on our business, and how his story fits into that of dLocal. So, Guillermo, welcome to dLocal Insights. It's truly great to have you at dLocal, to work with you every day, and to have you here today.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you very much. And it's truly an honor to be your first guest for the podcast. Of course. Thank you very much for having me.
You're what's most novel about dLocal right now, so this is where we wanted to start. And I wanted to start with something super simple. Why dLocal for you?
Okay. Well, there were many things. As you know, I've been in payments for over 20 years. And as I got to learn more about dLocal is truly special. I mean, there's not many companies out there that help millions of people in the global south to access products and services from global companies and pay whatever way they want. So that's the first thing that attracted me to dLocal. And what the founders have been able to do, and I've been able in the last few months to meet them and start to build in a dialogue with them, they've been able to build something truly incredible, phenomenal, doing it with the healthy margins that dLocal has, the level of growth that it has experienced in the past 10 years, the solid cash generation that it's showing. I mean, you don't find many companies like this out there. So those are the things that really attracted me. Obviously, I started to talk to many people in the company, the leadership, and I could see that they're really committed to building a strong company and to take opportunity of growth ahead of us. And for me, it was such a fantastic opportunity from a career perspective to be able to shape this next phase of growth for dLocal.
Yeah.
And apart from the company, I'm not going to lie to you, the role was also very important. Right.
And we'll go there next because I think you're uniquely prepared for this role. But it is incredible. dLocal this year turns 10 years old and 5 years as a public company. I think we sometimes lose sight of that and all that's been accomplished. And we sit here on the shoulders of giants in that sense, right? But back to you for a second. Looking back on your experience a little bit, you've had a 19-year long career in payments, spanning various roles at American Express and Visa. And when you think back on this and you think on what brought you here, what are the key experiences that brought you here and got you excited about this role?
Yes. It's actually more than 19, and now I think about it, it's 21 in payments. It's 19 in finance and payments. So you're right. I work for a very large payments company. I actually started my payments journey in Discover Financial Services, who offer credit card and acquiring in the US. And most of my career, I developed it in American Express and Visa. And I was, I developed my career in finance in some key roles. I was the CFO for the international corporate business of Amex. At some point, I was the CFO for the continental Europe business of Visa as well. And I learned from, every single company I worked for, to be honest. I think what those companies and the roles that I play in them allow me to build is a commercial mindset. I always work very closely with the business, with product and technology. They develop my appetite to actually implement change and building things. And as you can see, I also kind of hone on a very communicative and collaborative and transparent style that I've used with my teams and colleagues and investors and regulators over time. I learned the value of data to inform decisions. For example, that's something I worked a lot in Amex, using not just financial data, but also product platform data to inform key decisions, for example, around investments and having a disciplined capital allocation framework. I worked a lot with regulators and key stakeholders at Visa, for example. And then the last few years, I've actually developed my career as CFO of smaller fintechs, first at Tink and then FutureSpace. And it was a very different kind of business than the ones that I was managing at Amex and Visa, right? Much smaller, growing very fast. And there you need to build and you need to operate in a very fast environment, make decisions very quickly. And that is an environment in which I actually felt very energized and very comfortable.
Yeah, so you've seen, which is one of the things I find most interesting, and one of the things I think the board and Pedro shows you is you've seen some of these largest incumbents in payments, global players at massive scale, and then you've worked within those incumbents to build the future for them in fintech, as the world of payments and financial services more broadly changes rapidly. Eh, That gives you an interesting overview of where this whole ecosystem is at. Where to you does dLocal fit into that ecosystem?
Yeah, I think it has a very special position in the global payment ecosystem. As I said, I don't think there's many companies out there that are facilitating that millions of people in emerging markets can access products and services and pay the way they want. And one of the first things that you notice when you join dLocal is the level of complexity of operating in so many markets. And it's even more complex when you have to do it at scales, right? Facilitating all the payments that we facilitate. What I actually really impressed is that the way dLocal operates, and I don't think you can operate in any other way, is putting the merchant first. And I think that's how dLocal has been able to develop such a robust business over the years and in such a short time, right? You look at the merchants we work with, I mean, they are truly uh, top companies across the world, right? And I think the reason why it's been able to keep those relationships strong and grow with them is also because it acts with a lot of speed. And when you work with multi-decade, actually more than 100-year-old companies, that is something very difficult to retain. Many of those large companies out there are trying to do exactly that. How do we move faster? That's something that dLocal already has. And we need to try to get as much of the opportunity as we can of the opportunity that we have ahead, but never lose that, being able to operate with a lot of speed. But despite all that, I think in only 10 years, it has already a proven business model, profitable, growing fast, generating cash. So it's truly phenomenal, right? What dLocal has been able to achieve in such a short term.
Yeah, um, absolutely agree. A fresh perspective, however, is always interesting, right? I always got the question when I first joined from investors. What are your first takeaways? What surprised you? What's been different than you expected? So, I wanted to ask you, while it's been what, almost 3 months now, by why that perspective is still
Yeah.
fresh. What really stands out?
Well, so some of the things I already was to some extent aware, but I think the level of those have definitely surprised me. One of them is, for example, what I was talking about now, which is the complexity that dLocal is taking away from merchants. It- Sometimes what comes to mind when you think about it is regulation, right? We operate in a lot of regulated countries. But it's not only that. We're also helping merchants with tax, with settlements, with facilitated payments in hundreds of alternative payments varying by country. So the level of complexity is enormous. So that the extent to which dLocal is able to deal with that has really surprised me. The other thing is what I was talking about before about that relationship with top global merchants. The quality of that relationship, the depth, how long dLocal has been working with them has really surprised me. I think they're truly critical to explain the success of dLocal. So there's not many companies out there that can say that their net retention rate is over 100% when it comes to revenue, right? And you look at the big merchants and you look at the top 50 merchants, they are more than 90% of the volume that we process. And we continue growing with them. On average, I think we have 11 countries for each of these merchants. And we facilitate almost 50 paying methods with each of them. I mean, it's something truly phenomenal.
Yeah.
The other thing is, when a company has 10 years and reaches the scale that dLocal has reached, I mean, we still have a lot to grow ahead of us, but you obviously, and you try to deal with this complexity, it's very easy to lose these execution, merchant first oriented culture and speed. And I don't see that. I think that dLocal is still operating on a very lean, execution-oriented culture, and is still putting merchant first and value and speed to serve them. I think that's something very special in the culture of dLocal that we definitely need to strive not to lose. But at the same time, we obviously need to raise the bar on governance, on compliance, on the risk we're taking. We have to do all that without losing what I just said about putting merchant first and the speed in which we operate.
No, that mirrors that.
No,
go ahead.
No, I was going to say the companies I work for, I mean, that was truly what they were trying to recover, right? That client first and the speed in operating and executing.
There's a lot of our founders' DNA in how we operate. This real obsession with doing right by the merchants. And as you mentioned, 6 of the 7 Max 7 our clients, a ton of the other, like if you look at the S&P 50 or wherever you look at the global digital companies, and we're not operating with them in one market. We're operating with them on average in 11 markets with almost 50 payment methods, and that's growing year over year. These are sticky relationships where we're solving real problems for them in very complex corners of the world. Switching a little bit more to your role specifically, as you think of the finance function, which you now inherited, and as you think of being part of the dLocal management team, a key member of it, where are your top priorities as you think of the company's next phase of growth?
Yeah, the conversations I had before I joined, I mean, for me, the opportunity that dLocal is giving me to build a truly world-class finance team is critical. It's one of the reasons why I joined dLocal and given the opportunity to do so here. We need to strive always to get better. I want to strengthen all our planning and forecasting capabilities, and I want to embed finance more deeply into all the decisions that we make, whether they're more strategic decisions or decisions around product or investments. We need to continue solidifying and making our processes more efficient with better financial controls, better reporting, better treasury processes. That has to be part of our DNA in finance. And the only way to do that is to continue investing in bringing with us the best people, educating the people that we have to do the best every day, and obviously invest a lot in tools and data. I love dLocal's company mantra around AI. And I think in finance, we have a lot of opportunity to use AI. We're doing it, but there's much more that we can do. And we have to do all this building that I call, while we keep operating with the speed. and maintaining an open, transparent dialogue with our colleagues, our key stakeholders, regulators, and investors. So, yeah, it's a great challenge, and I'm sure it will be fun.
Yeah, and having worked together already, I am more than convinced that you're fully up to the task. I want to focus on something that we've been speaking a lot about with you, with Pedro, with the board over the last couple of months since you've joined. Right, is this is a business that sits on tremendous growth, plus profit, plus cash financial model. It's unique. And as we think about that financial model, and as you think of balancing this growth, profitability, and capital allocation into different types of investments, how do you think about that for a payments company like ours?
Yeah, it's not different to other payment methods or payment companies from that point of view, in which scale and operating leverage goes hand in hand. We have a massive opportunity in front of us. We're going to continue growing, and so we should start seeing that operating leverage over time. And as you say, we are profitable and we generate cash. So how we allocate capital is going to be critical in the next few years. The way I think about it, obviously, the first thing you need to do is to maintain your liquidity and the strength of our balance sheet to continue operating as we are and growing into new markets. And after that, invest it in the right way. So make sure that we are investing it in the right opportunities that are giving to us the right return. Also fund any M&A opportunities if we find them. And then being disciplined about how we return all the excess capital when it's value accretive to the shareholders, right? So that's kind of the framework that I have in mind, and then continue signaling through that our confidence in the long-term value of the company. At the end of the day, the main objective is to maximize the shareholder value over this long term. It's not so optimizing in a specific quarter, whether it's take rate or margin, right? The end objective that we have is to maximize shareholder value over the long term.
So, and as we think about that longer term, what part of you mentioned it about what attracted to you and what's so fun about dLocal is the tremendous growth we all see ahead. In part because of the markets we operate in, secular trends we're driving, part of how our merchants are growing in these markets, and part of some of the bets that we're also making as a company. So, from what you've seen so far, what excites you most about the future in terms of growth opportunities?
So the first one is we're just scratching the surface. The opportunity ahead of us is enormous. We see it in, for example, the opportunity to deepen our relationship with the merchants that we have. We see it on the growth in digital payments or in the services that these global providers are providing in emerging markets, the growth that is having. And we see it as we develop new products for our merchants. So at this point of time, my feeling is we're just scratching the surface. The opportunity ahead of us for growth is enormous, and we're tackling that from a position of strength, right? We are already very strong in core markets, and we continue to build capabilities in new markets in which to expand. That's our expertise. So we are in a very good position to actually take advantage of that opportunity. And at the same time, we have a very exciting product roadmap to support all that. So overall, I'm very excited about dLocal future. I think it has a lot of potential, and the level of growth that we're seeing currently is definitely a strong testament for that.
Yeah, I agree. I think 2025 and the 3 quarters were already released results for a clear testament to how we're now growing at real scale with the cash generation that you were mentioning. Just to finish up here and to get to know you a little bit better as a person. We clearly like global and multicultural profiles at dLocal. I'm probably no exception myself. and neither are you. So just tell us a little bit more about that, where you're actually from.
I'm actually from Spain, from Madrid, but I left Spain 23 years ago. I lived in Madrid, I lived in Chicago, and I lived in London. My previous roles have taken me to pretty much everywhere in the world. I've had I have travels to, I don't know, India, Japan, Australia, Mexico, Canada, you name it.
Yeah.
So I've always worked with a very multicultural, diverse environment, and I love that. Whether I have meetings in Spanish or in English, I'm okay with that. Any other language I struggle with, but if it's English or Spanish, I can. And I think it's what dLocal has been able to build in terms of diversity is great. It's an environment in which is really really nice to work with, and working with so many talented people, right?
One morning we're having a call with someone in Cape Town, the next with someone in Shenzhen or Shanghai or Singapore. It's or someone in Buenos Aires or Sao Paulo. It's a fascinating place to work from that sense. Because in the end, we try to also be in the markets that we operate in, right? And just lastly, I also know you're a man of many passions. I've seen some of them close hand. You've been going to Uruguay a lot now to get to know in particular some of the finance team, and I know you've found that to be mixed with your passion for surfing. So you want to tell us a little bit about that.
I think calling it surfing is probably giving it a bit of giving it a favor, to be honest. But I do try. I get my surfboards and I go out to the sea and I try to catch a few of the waves, and I love that. It's a fantastic way to disconnect from the day to day and exercise. I recommend it to everyone. Hey, and if I've been able to do it, living in Madrid, Chicago, and London, and reaching my 50s, anybody can do it. So yeah, definitely that is one of my passions. And whenever I go to Uruguay, I try to escape for the weekend and catch a few waves.
As you well know, I so far have preferred land sports over water sports, but I'm open.
But the good thing about water sports is when you fell, you don't
You
harm
don't harm
yourself.
yourself, exactly. Depends on the size of the wave, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, thank you so much, Guillermo. This was a really, really fun conversation. Thanks for being our first guest and sharing your perspectives. To our listeners, thank you for joining us. We hope this conversation was helpful to you to get to know more about dLocal and the people behind it, and how we think about the vast opportunity that we see ahead of us. We plan to continue using this podcast to discuss all kinds of topics like this with guests from the management team and others. So stay tuned for more updates, and do subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. For now, thanks for listening, and excited to see you next time.